Now, Marvel Rivals has a pretty large roster of characters, and when you have as many Marvel characters as they do, and Marvel has as many teams as they do, you're bound to get a bit of overlap. And of that overlap comes one team. This team, the X-Men. You may be confused on why I chose the X-Men over the Avengers. Hell, you guys keep asking me to do the Avengers. If I'm being honest, I just have the most desire to make the X-Men. And I think it's best to do the stuff I'm more interested in first, as to increase productivity. Not all to say I don't like the Avengers, I'm just more interested in doing the X-Men. And by the time that this video actually was made and came out, the Avengers are pretty much done. I just have to make like 3 more members. There's more than 6. This is also the biggest, most effort I've put into any of my videos to date. So, you better like this one. Because I worked pretty hard on it. I spent like 8 months making it. There's timestamps on the video, so if you want to skip to a specific character, feel free to. Here's the body cutout for Wolverine. I specifically wanted to make this guy shorter and stubbier than most. I love how stocky the build he has in this game is, where he's like just so tiny, but so jacked. Like, he's not micro, but he's like short. So I wanted to capture that in the build for the body. I actually made the Wolverine before I even thought of doing this video, like way before I made it, like all the way back in May, when I was making like Moon Knight and Ultron. I made him while I was making Moon Knight in May 2025. But nevertheless, here he is. I figured I'd record me doing this just because like I wanted to have the footage in case I decided to make a video like this. Smart of me. Once the body is done, I make the head. I decided not to show it because you should just know by now if you've been around the channel long enough. Using a Sharpie, I draw on the eyebrows. Then I cut out and give him his mutton chops. For his hair, I'm just gonna give him the normal hair that he sports rather than this big crazy hair. That's one of the things with this game that's kind of a shame to me. As much as I like some elements or designs, it's just not possible to have both at once. Like, I'd like to do Emma's diamond form because it's cool, but I can't change the body like that. Or Magik's Darkchild form. That would be cool too. But obviously, they're the same person, so I can't change her to look like that. With his hair done, I can sew it to the head. I then use a Sharpie to color the body hair. At the time of making him, I didn't have any references for his body hair, so that's why it's so limiting here. For the last detail for the body, I add like the little color highlights with paint into his hair. Pretty much everyone with an exposed head of hair has this. I like it. I think it works, and I think I'm usually able to get it to come across well. For his costume, I'd say this is one of the easier Rivals designs. Since Rivals characters are so detailed, it's very time consuming to make them. But now Wolverine, he's just really simple. I'd define his costume by 2 layers. The tank top and jeans, then the jacket. Among both layers, there's not a lot of detail that needs to be done. I remember when this game first came out, there was a lot of people who were really dissatisfied with Wolverine's design specifically. Not because it's bad, but just because it's not a costume. It's just kind of clothing. I think maybe some of this thought process was like kind of coming off of Deadpool and Wolverine and getting like that beautiful Wolverine suit that we've been waiting so long for, and then seeing this, and it's like, why are we shying away from the costume again? Which, like, I don't blame a lot of people who were hoping for the yellow and blue, or the brown and yellow suit. Personally, I was too. I'd love to see what Marvel Rivals Wolverine costume would look like. There's still time to add it in the future if they haven't already added it, like, by the time this video comes out. And I know there's the Deadpool and Wolverine costume, but that's not the same, you know? Don't get me wrong, I love it. I think it's like one of the best skins in the game. At least I did when I originally got the game. But it would be nice. Then maybe it could have like an X Factor recolor. That's what I think the recolor for Deadpool should be when they inevitably add him. I think it would be an X Factor recolor, but you never know. For all I know, that could be the Ranked World skin. Like, they could pull some random thing out of nowhere for Deadpool, but like, I can't think of another Deadpool costume that's like a recolor. That's not the black and gray suit. I know they made like toys of a blue and yellow one. I don't know why you'd want that. It's not bad, I just don't know why you'd want it. Maybe they'll just pick a random recolor, or they'll take one recolor and say it's another thing when it's not, it's just a recolor. Now I make Wolverine's dog tag. I don't show it while making it, but every time that I run the thread through each dog tag, I tie it off so the thread keeps it in place and it's not moving around when it's on him. Then I sew it around his neck and then finish it off there. I think the dog tag detail is kind of dumb though, because like, he's not a dog, he's Wolverine. It's just bad character design. For what I consider Wolverine's second layer, I make the jacket. Something that's nice is that the game considers it a second layer as well, meaning I was able to find a picture of his model without the jacket on that I could actually use for reference. So, I'm glad it was as simple as that. Like, I didn't even need to look for it. I think I just looked him up and it like came up immediately. It's great. Another thing I appreciate with Marvel Rivals character design is their choice of colors. With all the DC and MCU stuff that I've been making, their costumes are typically muddied or darker colors. Take Thunderbolts and Captain America, for example. However, with Rivals, they use nice vibrant colors. Like on this Wolverine. I'm glad his jacket is such a rich yellow, because this is the yellow material I've had for a while, but I just don't really get to use. But when doing Rivals characters, I actually can, like on Wolverine and Jean. In the design of this jacket too, I really appreciate that they keep certain details. Like, I love that he still has his big blue shoulder pads, or the black lines under his arms. Both really nice details that I'm glad to see kept. I also think there's just a certain beauty to his design. Maybe beauty isn't the right word, but the rugged, kinda southern country bar hopper look is really nice for Wolverine. It reminds me of the first X-Men movie when we meet Wolverine and he's doing cage fights and getting drunk somewhere in Canada. I think it's Canada. I haven't watched the movie in a bit. I also appreciate the dog tag detail, a reference to his military days, obviously. And the white boots. I like the white boots. Just because they're kind of silly. Like, this tough, gruff guy wearing white X boots just seems a little silly. And I think it's silly in a way that works really well. Almost like a little nod to just not take it too seriously. I'm probably reading too much into it, but the character design in this game is always really cool when you look beyond the surface of it. Now typically I would never do this, but I'm going to make his claws. I didn't do this on the last Wolverine I made, for like back for Deadpool Wolverine. Obviously you've got to cut out 6 claws, but to get that you need to cut out 12 pieces. Then on top of that, I use washing machine friendly plastic mesh to put inside the claws, so you really got to cut out 18 claw pieces. I thought this process would be tedious, but it actually wasn't. It wasn't bad at all. Time consuming, but nothing bothersome. Maybe you'll have a different experience. Once the claws are finished, I can sew them to the body. I don't usually like this, but I figured that since the claws are pretty much always popped in game, it would only be appropriate that he has them here. After being sewn on, I can paint the claws. I kind of sloppily put silver paint on the sides of each claw, just like to give it that gleam, and then the white on the bottom. Then I painted a bit on where they connect to the fist, like in the knuckles and stuff. I was trying to emulate that metal part they pop out of, but I didn't do a good job. When it's all attached and dried, I use a Sharpie to draw the lines on the area the claws pop from. Like, I'm not a fan of it being attached to the hand. Usually those are just something on his gloves. Like, I think it's kind of weird if he just has them on his hands, similar to how he does here. Besides that, I'd say I like this guy. He turned out pretty good. You could say I could have done better on the proportions, but I think given how my pattern is, this is probably the best I could have done to merge both styles. I think it works. Here's our body cutout. You know, Caleb wanted me to make Psylocke first, and I wanted to make Mantis, but Mantis is a part of the Guardians of the Galaxy, so I don't really feel like doing that, but you know who I wanted to make the most on the X-Men? That's right, Wolverine. To be honest, her body is one of the reasons I was actually excited to make her. Not for like gooner reasons, but because I've always been drawn to making characters whose bodies are just like different than a typical body. I enjoy doing things that are different, or maybe just more challenging, like Arkham Asylum Bane, Absolute Batman, Arkham whatever, like Arkham Asylum City, Killer Croc, and City Clayface. With Emma, she's got such large legs and a tall body. That's something I just typically don't do in women I make, so it's pretty cool to get to do that now. I pretty much just make superheroes, so a lot of the women I make are generally smaller and more slim figures, like Luna. It's pretty much one of the reasons that I've enjoyed making rival stuff altogether. Sure, it takes an abnormally long time to make one of these guys, and it's pretty difficult compared to other stuff I've done, but it's a challenge. Something I always say about making these is there's endless detail. Every time I think I'm done one, I'm not. Every detail I do, there's always 10 more tiny things I missed. But despite that, it's pretty rewarding to finish something like these. Especially when on average for me, they take anywhere from a week to a month to make, depending on how consistently I'm working on them for. Emma in particular, I think took me somewhere around 2 weeks to make, which at the point I thought was bad, but others have taken way longer, so this is actually kind of a blessing. Looking at my Emma now, I gotta say, with the boots and underwear combo, she's starting to look a lot like those ladies my dad used to bring over at night when I was a kid and my mom wasn't home. Actually getting down to the costume is where the process really starts to slow. I can make any body in around an hour or two, but the costumes really just depends on whom I'm rocking with. Like the Hulk, well actually the Hulk's a really bad example. His detail is mostly in his body. The Thing, nope, it's got the same issue. Jep, I will say that the complaint about endless detail has kind of worn off on me since I made her in July. It's a lot easier and faster now for me to finish characters. Like I made Iron Man faster than her. Iron Man. You'd think he'd be like one of the hardest characters to make with all that armor plating, but no. But I did make him faster. So you could say I'm just getting better? Yeah. A creative liberty I've noticed Marvel Rivals take often is a small change up to the design. Specifically, I want to focus on the colors. Like typically in the comics, Emma's costume, she supports an all-white costume with a splash of gray or silver in there. She has her odd black suit, but usually white. Something cool they do is typically add a color to the suit that wasn't there before. Like for this, they throw a bunch of blue in there. Now, is it to keep consistent with the white and blue white women in the game that they just love so dearly? Yeah, probably. But does it look really good on the suit? Yes, they're a nice color combination. They also do this by putting blue on the symbiote suits, a color I don't really see on symbiotes often. Or ever. I might have. I don't remember. I was gonna mention Spider-Man too, because he has the black all over his costume, but Spider-Man already has black in his logo, so that would have just been stupid, and it was in the script, and I'm mentioning it anyway. I think if any character in Marvel Rivals is to have Fuda made of them, I think Emma Frost is probably your most important pick. Right up there on the front line. I think her and Angela, probably. Just the way she looks, I feel passionately as if she truly embodies the look you'd idealize for such a thing. Of course, this is subjective as I may believe. You're entitled to your own opinions of Fuda women, even if you are incorrect. Did you guys know Emma at heart is a teacher? Like, she often teaches at the Xavier School, one who genuinely likes and cares about the well-being of her students. I feel like there's a lot of people who don't see that and just recognize her as a villain. I know I initially did. Then I watched X-Men First Class, and that didn't really help. To be fair, I'm not entirely wrong. I think she's just a hero right now. She kind of flip-flops. She's morally dubious. Like, she's actually a teacher, but she's also co-created the Hellfire Club, which is evil, and not entirely the same thing as the Hellfire Gala, I think. Maybe they organize it, and I'm not totally sure. To be honest, I still don't know that much about the X-Men. When it comes to her being a teacher, she heroically decided to pursue teaching at a young age because coming up as a child, her family was very rich, which meant that she had a private teacher. Around this time, her powers were manifesting, and she actually ended up reading his mind, just to find out he had special thoughts about her. Child her, when her hair was brown and she was chopped. Turns out this was actually somehow set up by her father to get him fired or whatever. I'm not totally sure. I explained it terribly. I'll just link some videos in the description that explain it a lot better. Did you know she also has multiple siblings? A brother and 2 sisters. I think 2 sisters. Maybe 3? Again, I'm not sure. This is all off the dome. Speaking of her family, Emma's got an abusive father. Just like every mutant, whose parents are either dead or mean. I can't really think of a good biological parental relationship off the top of my head. I mean, I don't think Wolverine would even remember his parents, like at all. For all he knows, he just popped into the universe one day. She's actually also involved in some sort of relationship with Cyclops. They try to paint it as Scott and Jean are meant to be and love each other super deeply, but Scott cheats on her all the time. He's a terrible lover. Like, while him and Jean are together, he psychically cheats on her with Emma. Then when Jean finds out, he just straight up leaves her for Emma. I don't know if it was right away or a while later, but he does. And then they're together for a bit, and eventually I think he comes back to her. Or Emma leaves her. Either thing. Something happened. That's why Emma and Jean actually don't seem to really like each other at all through the dialogue in the game. If you're into that sort of thing, or listen to it at all, or care about it. I listen to it, I care about it, I think it's neat. I also like how Jean has that line about Emma specifically entertaining or being entertained by one specific guest on the island, which I'm sure is referring to Iron Man. I also don't think people know about Emma and Iron Man's romantic relationship in the Marvel Universe. They not only dated, but were married at one point. I think they may still be married, I'm not completely sure. I know they got married for financial reasons, but whether they want to admit it or not, it's clearly deeper than just money. Now I actually make all the little diamonds on her suit, which are not my best friend. They're actually just kind of repetitive and take a while to make. Like, they're generally simple, but I think their simplicity makes it feel even more repetitive because I'm doing like 3 steps and then doing it 6 times over. You know what? That's actually not true. It doesn't matter how simple it is. I made the entire Shazam family from Shazam Fury of the Gods, and that took me a month and a half, even though the characters were easy. It was all just because it was so repetitive to do. If you want to see them, they're on my Instagram, or I think I put them at the end of my Peacemaker video back in August of 2025, if for some reason you're watching this way further out, which isn't wrong. You should watch this video to the end of time. It took so long to make. To be honest, I just put a lot of stuff at the end of my Peacemaker video. I'm editing this at the end of September, so the Supergirl trailer should be out by this time, if this releases when I want it to release. In fact, maybe there's a Lanterns trailer too. Which is neat to think about. I want to release this video in February, but I have a feeling it's not going to be out by the given time because of how lazy I am. I know that while painting these, I use glow-in-the-dark paint. To be honest, the fact it glows really doesn't matter. All I wanted was for it to have the same color. But I will say the added glowing is definitely cool. With the costume finished, I'd typically be done, but I don't think I am. I want to go back to the face for a minute. I really don't like how it looks here. Maybe you, the viewer, think it's fine, but to me, I just didn't do a good enough job. The eyes are too far apart, which was on purpose, but I didn't mean to go as extreme with it as I did. The hair color is just flat out wrong, and it's missing the painted streaks throughout, which I chose not to do because I knew at the time that I wanted to redo the hair anyway. So I'm going to do a sane and normal first decision of decapitating this woman. Something I do often, but I think this time was the cleanest. Then I rip the hair off, which is standard procedure. Then I get to the stuff I don't normally do. I run some thread through her head to mimic the cheekbones. Using the old hair as a template, I cut out the new hair in a more golden color. Then I sew it to the head the same as the first time. I decided to do a time lapse of it because I just bought a new tripod and I needed to make use of it. For the hair details, I give her a piece on the right of her head that swoops down and tucks under her hair. Then on the right side, I do a piece that just goes straight down her face. I also make a little strand in front because it just looks better that way. Now I sew the head back onto the body. I don't know why I did it this way because I hadn't painted it yet, which I usually do before reattaching it. I think I was just weirded out by the headless body. With the head on, I used brown marker to draw some details on her face, chest, and legs. Then I cut these X's out of felt for her earrings and sew them on because I have no other way of attaching them. Now for the final detail, the paint. I definitely made her in a strange way. But I'm really glad I went back on the head because she looks 1,000 times better than she did before. I'm super happy with her. Now to make the mighty Phoenix, or Jean Grey. If this game had real balls, they'd put her down as Marvel Girl. But no, they just go with Phoenix instead, like a bunch of cowards, too afraid of the mighty Marvel Girl. Something I'd noticed pretty quickly is that it seems like Jean and Scarlet Witch have the same body, or basically the same body. Upon further inspection, there's little differences. Basically, Jean is Scarlet Witch, but with a fatter ass. Trust me, I checked. A lot. Luckily, I've got this Scarlet Witch body that I've cut out, but haven't made yet, so I just trace it for Jean. Come to notice, most of the women have the same body. It's just some are taller or shorter than others. The only real ones who are really different are Squirrel Girl, Angela, and Emma Frost. Which I can understand. A lot of women in comics have the same body because that's usually what a healthy fit woman looks like. Plus the undeniable sex appeal. Because I'll then look over at men and all their bodies, and they're all pretty different. Like, Spider-Man's build is pretty different than Black Panther, who's significantly different to Captain America, who's got, like, changes to Thor, who, they're both nothing like the Hulk, who's on basically the opposite spectrum to Wolverine. The same Wolverine that's the exact opposite to Loki. I could go on. But then the women, Hela, Invisible Woman, Psylocke, Luna Snow, Phoenix, Dagger, Storm, Scarlet Witch, Magik, Mantis, Black Widow, they're all the same. Just some have bigger or smaller boobs, which I've thoroughly looked at. I've spent most of my game time looking at them, actually. Something that kind of bothers me in this game is that they just miss or ignore certain aspects of characters and their personalities. Like, they got all these cool or lesser known things down, but when it comes to, like, something big, they just kind of ignore it. Like with Phoenix specifically, she is completely missing anything to do with her telepathy. I think she's got like 1 or 2 voice lines where she understands Groot speaking, but that's pretty much all I can remember. Like, she is an Omega level telepath without the Phoenix Force. So why don't they use that in her kit at all? They use it in Emma's? Emma's got 2 different kits altogether. I know it'd be a little hard considering her kit already, and I don't really care as much as it seems I do, but it would be cool. At least it's not as big a deal to me as with Iron Fist. Tell me why Iron Fist has no Iron Fist abilities. His ult is turning black and punching with green flame, not using his Iron Fist. Why? And I know he's got the shards of a magic sword in his wraps on his hands, and I don't care. It's cool that is incorporated. That's not something a lot of people probably know. A lot of people didn't even know who this Iron Fist was before they started playing the game. But damn it, where is the Iron Fist? He is Iron Fist. He's not Swordmaster anymore. I don't care about his sword. That's cool that it's included, but that is the same as like just his rapid punches in general. Like, I'm pretty sure he emits green flame. Whatever. Doesn't matter when there's something else I can complain about. Her costume. When I heard Jean was announced for the game, I was initially hoping that she'd be rocking a look very similar to how she appears in the Fall of X comic run. And I mean, she kinda does. Mainly I just like the headpiece she's got, which thankfully is the detail that they kept and is kind of untouched. Kinda like how Spider-Man's suit has black on it, but it's not covering the suit like it is here. That's probably why I just wear her rank skin all the time, because her rank skin is like this kind of turquoise blue-ish color, and maybe I just don't know as much about colors as I think I do. The main thing I'd noticed about her first is just her weird black crust all over her on a lot of the black sections. Why does it look like that? I mean, I get it, she was added in the Null Clintar season of the game, but I just thought it was strange to make her main skin some sort of like symbiote-like skin. I don't see anyone else say that either. It looks like a symbiote. Not fully like a symbiote, but symbiote adjacent. I don't see anyone else talk about that. I barely see anyone reference the black crust on her suit. I call it crust. I feel like that's the wrong term. Again, I think this harkens back to me just liking green on her and preferring how she looks as opposed to the black. Personally, I thought we were past the X-Men just being in all black all the time. Come to think of it, there's a lot of X-Men who don't want to wear their costumes. Wolverine, Magik. Okay, that's it. I dug myself into a complaining hole here. But seriously, why no costume for Wolverine? Maybe they just couldn't think of some way to rivalize the design without it becoming across as some over-designed, militaristic mess like a certain other game studio did that starts with the letter I and rhymes with Insomniac. Even though I'm complaining, I do like the costume now. I have since come around. I'm no longer a grouch, but like I said, I would change those aspects if given the chance. Now she's finished. Upon finally finishing her, I took a closer look, really analyzing what I had done, and I've come to the conclusion that she kind of looks like Bonnie Blue, which I'm actually really mad about. It's definitely the hair. Damn it, I did this on Invisible Woman too! Now this guy's gotta be big considering he's a tank. However, he's on the smaller side of tanks, only being 6'4", which is the same height as some DPS. To be fair, Emma is 6'1", but that hardly matters. All that really means is that he's just wide. Really wide. For Magneto's head detailing, it's easy, but the hair is trickier. Since I can't see his hair, but that's actually kind of a blessing, because now I don't really have to bother with detailing it. The facial details are also pretty easy, considering it's a goatee and eyebrows. The bulk of the detail comes in markers, which is no problem for me. With the body detail finished, I can cut out the entire base of the costume. I record this time-lapse for the next 45 minutes of me making it. I kinda like cutting things out first, then sewing them together. It just really streamlines the feeling of the process, even though it takes about the same amount of time. Normally, I'd cut it out as I go, but I've made so many bases at this point that I just kind of know what I'm doing. I ended up realizing right after making the base that the boots weren't really the right color, so I changed them to a lighter gray. I start detailing the costume in the same place I always do, the bottom. I was initially a little intimidated by the idea of making Magneto. There's just so much detail to him that I didn't feel like tackling at the time, especially his color. He's mostly white and gray, which is super annoying to get different variations of in that color. Luckily at this point, with how many of these guys I've made and how much material I've had to buy to make them, I pretty much have everything I need. Another aspect of this is that there's just so many tiny pieces to him. As you're seeing right now, something I want to mention is that I'm actually so mad with my last Marvel Rivals video. It's not a bad video, but I'm so mad with how I forgot to just edit the messed up lines in the script. Like, what's even the point of editing if I'm just gonna leave in the parts where I'm supposed to edit them out? Maybe you don't mind, but holy moly did it make me mad. I was so disappointed when I went back to check on the quality of those videos. I just need to stop editing these videos tired. Well, even then, I say my last video, but what I really mean is my one from August, where I made Luna, Punisher, and Winter Soldier. Can you tell I wrote this a long time ago? You know, I forget which part of him I was working on while I was watching it, but I was actually watching Ghost Rider 2 while working on him. And I think that makes this the perfect time to complain about how much I hate that movie. I think it just sucks. I'm talking like a 0 out of 10 movie. I don't care if you personally like the movie, but I watched it and I just straight up hated it. Several times during this movie, I was close to just turning it off and going to sleep or skipping it altogether. Like, to start off, I watched the first movie before this, obviously, but I didn't think it was bad. I gave it like a 5 out of 10 because I just thought it was mid. When I rank these movies, I also account for the time that the movie was released. Like, if it came out today, it would be too standard and boring to be a 5 out of 10. I say boring, I just mean like, it would be too standard, too of its time, to be good now. Anyway, I was expecting something similar when watching the second one, but no. I immediately noticed the movie just looks and feels a lot cheaper. Like, there's scenes of this movie where it looks like it's just shot on somebody's phone. Or like a handheld camera you'd get at Walmart. The movie also just felt like it was trying too hard to be cool. Like, with all the narration scenes and the fight scenes. I say all the narration scenes, I think there's like one or two. But like, even the fight scenes I found to be kind of boring. Just because it felt like they were trying to spend too much time aura farming. And aura farming is a delicate balance, man. You gotta do it for only so long until it's like, alright, wrap it up. Like, I feel like the first Blade movie even does that when he's like walking in with the vampires. I feel like it goes on for like just too long. Another thing that's more of a nitpick is that Ghost Rider's design is just worse. Not a big fan of the Black Skull. The first movie has a pretty perfect look for the character. So it's kind of like disappointing to see him devolve here. All those are secondary complaints though when stacked up against something like its story. So, how was the story? It sucked. It was terrible. All the characters were just so overly edgy and cringy to watch at times. The kid and his mom were super unlikable and annoying and poorly acted. They recast the devil in this movie, so I didn't even realize it was supposed to be the devil until like the third act, when I think he like says that he's the devil. But you're like supposed to know that he is. It's so stupid. Like, I thought he was just kind of some demon guy. Not to mention Johnny Blaze himself. He's so dumb in this movie. Like, they have this whole arc for him where he just wants to get rid of the Ghost Rider and he wants to be a normal person again. So they dedicate, like, this whole part of the movie to him going to some cave so Idris Elba can cure him with some angel magic or something. But as soon as he does that, the kid character is kidnapped and immediately he becomes Ghost Rider again to save him. Like, literally, like, I think when he exits the cave, after, he's like super like, oh, thank you for curing me. And then he's like, oh, the kid's kidnapped? Alright, I'll be Ghost Rider. It's so stupid. So pointless. And then this whole thing is just stupid, because at the end of the first movie, he's offered a chance to be normal again, but he turns it down because he's like, this is my cross to bear. I will embrace the Ghost Rider. Or some BS like that. I hate when they do that between movies or like seasons of a show, when the main character suddenly just wants to like undo something from the last movie that they chose to do. They do it in Spider-Man 2 as well. Peter turns down MJ in the first movie because of his responsibility as Spider-Man, but then right off the bat in the second movie, he was studying poetry so he can win her over. Like, you have her. She wants you. Just ask her out. It's not like she was with John yet either. I don't think she was, at least. Like, he totally could have gotten with her. And don't tell me that, like, oh no, he went after her after he lost his power. He didn't. He was studying poetry right away. He was talking to Dr. Octopus about it, like, way before he even lost his powers. I think it's stupid. I don't like when they do that. If he went for her after he lost his powers and realized he could be with her, then yeah, it'd be fine, but it's just so stupid the way it's done in the movie. Anyway, back to Ghost Rider. Him turning down being normal again was stupid in the first movie, and it's even more stupid in this one. The ending's lame, the whole movie just sucks. 0 to 10. I encourage you to never watch it. I genuinely just hate this movie. Like, I don't want to give a 0 out of 10, because it feels cruel. And I'm like, okay, you know, there's got to be something I like. And, like, they have, like, zany camera direction. And I was trying to be like, okay, well, this is, like, different and interesting. It was stupid. It was just stupid. I couldn't even like that. Like, I couldn't find a single thing I liked about the movie. It was just a 0 to 10. I could be like, oh, well, I like that it ended, but I wish it never started. So, you know, there's no winning. Movie just sucks. Terrible. I guess I should talk about Magneto. I draw the X logo and his little medallion. Did you know he's actually just on the X-Men in this game? Like, not X-Men associated because he's a mutant. He's a full-blown X-Men member. I guess this game really just doesn't want villains in it. I think even Venom is a hero in this game. The only villain I can really think of in this game is Hela. Everyone else seems pretty chill with each other. Which, that's gotta be a bummer for Doom. Even the Goddess of Death is like, yeah, I'll team up with the heroes to beat you. What happened to honor among super thieves? What if Doom wants to be friends with the heroes too? Are they just gonna let him in? They should recruit a good Doom from another place in the time stream. Like one that's super nice and loves puppies and rainbows. Maybe rainbow puppies. I like how the point was for me to talk about Magneto, and there's a lot of interesting things I could say about Magneto, yet I choose to instead spend the whole time complaining about how I don't like a completely unrelated character's movie. I mean, if they're not gonna add Ghost Rider anytime soon, then I gotta whine about it somewhere, right? If this part of the video ages poorly, let it be known that I'm writing and editing this part of the video on October 21st, 2025 at 8:49 p.m. Therefore, saying that absolves me of all my wrongdoings. Anyway, that's wrapping up Magneto. I think he turned out pretty good. I'm actually really proud of him. The detail looks good. I like how bulky he is, but he also feels kind of like compact, if that makes sense. I think I did a really good job and I'm proud. Anyway. Now, despite being in the middle of this video, Rogue is actually the last character I made for the video, for obvious reasons, that being she's the newest addition to the game. Personally, I thought for sure it would have been Gambit, that was the second hero in Season 5, but alas, I stand incorrect. It's kind of funny seeing the posts from before the season even came out, where people were like super confident that Rogue would be the first hero and a healer, and then Gambit would be a DPS. Look where we are now. Honestly, better this way. Gambit's basically a DPS anyway. For Rogue's hair, I feel like I put more effort into it than I usually afford to other characters. It was kind of fun though, because I like her curls, and I've never really done hair like this. I've been chopping these videos up and uploading them in 2 to 4 parts on TikTok, and on one of those posts, I got a compliment on my Invisible Woman hair, which really made me realize, yeah, this does look pretty good. Now it makes me want to do even better on the other hair that I have to make, and see like how far I can go with success. While I am on the subject of their hair, the more I look at her, the more I wish she had a green like bandana or headband around her head. Could even be yellow, either or. Both be cool. I mean, hey, you could even go red. I'm pretty sure her Savage Land skin has it, which, you know, that'd be pretty cool. Add a little color up there. Well, I guess you have the white, so it's like, it balances. I don't know what I'm talking about. No, I do know what I'm talking about. I think the headband would have been cool. I like her design anyway. While speaking on her design, I think I've mentioned before in my actual like gameplay Rivals videos that I'm starting to notice the game dial back on their over-design style. Rogue here, in my opinion, is no exception. To be fair, it's pretty true to the comics, but like I've said in my other videos, I like when Rivals changes things. To be fair, I don't know what I'd change if I were them, but I'm also not very creative. I think though, if I were to design a costume for her in this game, I would have put her in the green suit that she wears at the end of X-Men 97, and in the comics. That honestly just is kind of what I was hoping for to begin with. Do I think what we got in the game was a better decision? Yeah. But do I hope we get that skin sometime soon? Also yeah. As for other skins she could wear, I don't really know. I'm not that familiar with her character's costume history. The X-Men costumes from the movies are famously ass and a left-behind product of the past. I mean, seriously, they couldn't put any color in there. With the way the suits are designed, you could totally just splash like a little yellow X, maybe some highlights, yellow belt, boots. I think they have, what are they called? They have like those pants with like the kind of flowy pant legs. I don't remember what they're called. I'm not a fashion guy, believe it or not. Like they could have made Storm's white. They could have given Jean some yellow or blue, maybe even green. Do I hear some green? That would have been cool. I've seen people say they want the X-Men Evolution outfit for her, and I can't agree with that. I think that'd be cool. I've seen the concepts of it. I'm sure they'll give her some original design, like a punk costume, or something that fit in line with whatever the season's theme is when they inevitably add her to the Battle Pass. Anyway, I think their added elements are cool, and I like seeing what they come up with for characters like Spider-Man or Moon Knight, Emma Frost, Jean Grey, Wolverine, the Fantastic Four, etc. I really like the Fantastic Four. Do I wish maybe some characters like Daredevil rung more true to their comic counterparts opposed to making them look like a samurai? Perhaps. But do I think it's bad? No. I like that it's different. It definitely helps diversify my collection of like specific characters I've made, like all my Spider-Man and my Wolverines. I only keep mentioning Spider-Man because I've made like 10 Peter Parker Spider-Man. Just Peter. I made like 2 2099s and 2 different miles. 3 different miles. My bad. There are of course characters I've only made one of from this game, like Magik, Psylocke, Emma Frost, Luna Snow, Angela, Penny, and a few others I don't remember right now. Or I just... Oh, Cloak and Dagger. No, I made a Cloak and Dagger. Squirrel Girl? Well anyway, Rogue is one of them. I've made other Gambits, but I didn't make Rogue. I was going to get around to it, but I had no design for her, and I didn't really care. Because, like, I used to make a bunch of my own designs for Marvel characters that were kind of eh. It was, like, years ago that I did this. I didn't make the Channing Tatum Gambit. I was gonna, but then he got announced for Doomsday, and I'm like, I'll make him in, like, a year when Doomsday comes out, and I'll put him in a video for that. But it's all okay now, because I have a Rogue. If I keep this up, eventually I'll have an Elsa Bloodstone. Maybe a Hitmonkey, if they do add him. Spot Pete, perhaps? Anyway, Rogue is finished. I think she turned out pretty solid. To be honest, I wasn't totally sold on her until I finished her and put her in her jacket. Soon as I popped that on, brought her all together. Also now I can have her and Gambit all happy together. Never lame, stupid. Gambit is an exciting one. I wasn't expecting to like him as much as I did. I know he's kinda got a fan base that's been growing a lot since Deadpool and X-Men 97 both shine spotlights on his character, but Now, being in the game, I gotta say, he is a really fun addition. I lorded him almost immediately, like in a week, because I haven't been with a woman in a really long time. As I'm sure you already noticed, I made a video on it like 3 weeks after his release. Would have been 2, but I wanted to upload my LEGO Batman finale. I also had pretty much made Gambit as soon as he was released. I actually speedran finishing everybody else so I could focus on Gambit and say I'd made all the X-Men for about a month. I'd say with Gambit's costume, I feel like he's kind of easy to make, at least compared to other Rivals characters. To me, it feels like Rivals is really dialing back on their over-design style, which is kind of disappointing. I kind of like how much characters have going on their costumes. It's like even with their comic skins now. Like, I think it's good what they're doing with Scarlet Witch, Magneto, and Cap's comic costumes. To specifically do the classic suits, yeah, make them like that. Make them as classic looking as possible. Because, like, those are the main costumes, right? I think that's a good option to have. But not different costumes, in my opinion. Like the Iron Spider that they released in Season 5. That's just comic Iron Spider. And I'm not complaining that it's bad, because it's still, like, it's good, but it's kind of plain. Like, I kind of wish they put a sort of Rivals spin on it, where they do over-design it a bit, but it's still recognizable. Like, for an example, Fortnite. Fortnite did more with the Iron Spider to make it look armored, but not overly doing it. Personally, it's my favorite adaptation of the Iron Spider suit. The one in Spider-Man PS4, I don't know why people praise that so much. It is so ugly. It is so ugly. The top half with all the armored bits, cool. The rest of it is just a red bodysuit. He looks worse than cosplay. It looks stupid. I don't know why it gets all the love it does. I might just be being a hater, but that suit is lacking. Top half, helmet, logo, all that, cool, good. If it kept that in the bottom, I'd like it a lot more. Like I was saying, this game doesn't even try to do that. It just, like, craps it out. And if I'm being honest, I think that is because of the complaining from fans. I don't think it's, like, too vocal, where it's like, oh my god, guys, shut up. But there is a loud minority of people who just complain that things don't look one-to-one. And that is stupid. The game clearly has a style. If you don't like it, sucks to suck, bro. Like, I pray this isn't the new direction for them, where they don't put their style or some kind of spin on the comics. Like their symbiote Spider-Man suit. I think it looks good. I like it. The eyes, I'm not big on the two-strand tentacle things. Not tentacles, but 2 strands he has on his eyes. I'm not too big on that. Other people like it. I like that it's new. I want them to do new inventive things with these costumes. Same with the Ronin skin for Hawkeye, or Joe Fixit. Cool. I like that they go a different direction. I don't want to get the Shadowland Daredevil skin and just have it be the plain comic one. That is boring. Like, yeah, it's a good design in the comics, and I like it there. But I want to see this game put their own spin on it. The only ones I'd want to see adapted one-to-one is movie skins. But like exactly what they're doing with the Fantastic Four, Guardians of the Galaxy, the MCU Iron Spider, Iron Man, all that. Still have like Rival style, but it's one-to-one with the movie. That's all good. I like that. But I would love to see some more creativity and like, yeah, creative liberties with comic stuff instead of just caving to whiny fans and making it a one-to-one, because that looks less good. Because something I see people complain about that I feel like they don't understand is that comic book outfits can look good in the comics, but they don't necessarily translate well to other media, like video games and movies. I think this is sort of an exception because this video game has a style that is comic booky. Thank God they're not going for realism. That would suck. But like, that is why in the movies, a lot of costumes have like a ton of textures and seams for decades now, and it would look way more silly if it was just straight spandex that they were all running around in, just flat colored spandex, like in the 80s. Like, people glaze the Henry Cavill Superman suit. I'm talking glaze. That is just a blue bodysuit with a like chrome muscle suit under it, and a ton of texturing. Oh my god, the textures. The paint that they used on that suit. You could paint a house with that. Good God. How did I make a video about Gambit and somehow loop it all the way around to talk about Henry Cavill's Superman? Or DC in general? Can you imagine if his name was Cavill? Like Jor-El and Kal-El? Then I'd probably glaze him as perfect casting. Holy yap session. I'm 5.5 minutes into this video and I barely talked about Gambit. Just complained about Rivals design. You know, maybe I'm being too hasty, cause this battle pass also contains Franken-Punisher, which I think is pretty good. But at the same time, it also has the Groot skin that I personally like because it's classic Guardians, but in reality, I need that skin for Star-Lord yesterday. I just want more Star-Lord skins. By the time this video is out, the Season 6 Battle Pass should be revealed. If it's anything like Season 5, then it'll be revealed like a few days after this goes up. Unless this video is horrifically late, then we may be close to Season 7's Battle Pass. If I'm not done at that point, just put me down. It's over for me. Considering I plan to upload these videos more than once on different occasions, I really need to stop talking about things currently as if the game is not rapidly changing all the time. Anyway, with Gambit all done, I can say I like him. He's good. Turned out pretty well in my opinion. For Psylocke, I said in the Phoenix part of the video that she basically has the same body. I think they're even the same height. If not, she's probably a little taller. Something a little annoying is that with a lot of these, their heads are really slim or they just have sharp jaws that are difficult to replicate. With Psylocke, this isn't such a big deal, but someone like Iron Fist or Daredevil, it becomes a problem. Something neat is she's got this wing-like design on the side of her face. I had to go into a previously played game to look at her model for reference since it was really difficult to see it on the hero page itself. I gotta say, every girl I've met with purple hair has been very chopped, so this is a nice change of pace. This hair is actually a little unique compared to other hair I've done. I was originally under the impression I'd have to sew and stuff it, but it's a lot simpler than that. It's also nice that I don't have to paint her hair because I chose to use a Sharpie instead. I think I'll use this same technique for Namor. In my opinion, it's about as good. For her costume, I'm going to split working on it into pieces. Originally I was going to do the legs first and then the arms so I could finish with the main centerpiece, but that would look kind of weird, so I'm just going to make the torso piece now. For her costume, I start with this white top. Looking at her in it, I realized something. I made the boobs a little lopsided, but this isn't a problem. In fact, it's actually beautiful. Some women may look at their own breasts and notice they also are lopsided. Or maybe one is bigger than the other. And that's okay, because you gotta look at it with a glass half full mentality. One boob isn't smaller. That's your normal boob. That's the base boob. Your other boob? It's actually the big one, making them both beautiful and special from one another. You know what? You might as well send me a picture of your boobs I cannot stress enough, if you are above 18 or 19. Or are an 18,000-year-old princess in the body of a Mormon, unless that Mormon is a child. It's all very complicated. Like just about everything from this game I've been making, she's very layered. However, sometimes the layering isn't too obvious. Here I think it is very obvious. Luckily, most of that is already done. Now I'm making her rope sash thing around her waist. I actually had to look up a hair braiding tutorial to even figure out how to make this. Luckily it paid off because I think this turned out really nicely. Plus I don't actually need to connect it, I can just fix that with paint later. Something I don't think a lot of people know about Psylocke in this game, because I don't think anybody who plays this game knows anything about any of the characters, and they're definitely not as smart as me. It's that this isn't even the original Psylocke. To be honest, she's mostly original to the game, but like she's not, and that statement's wrong. Her name is actually Psy, which is in itself funny. Psylocke as a character just generally has a very messy history in Marvel. This Psylocke though is Psy, originally from Earth 42141, who in the comics is a wandering mercenary who I think teamed up with Wolverine. As a character, she's only ever actually really had 3 appearances across comics. Demon Days X-Men Volume 1, Rise of the Power of X Volume 1-5, what a mouthful, and King in Black Volume 1-4. As with the actual Psylocke you're probably familiar with, that's Betsy Braddock. Kinda. A racially ambiguous, possibly British mutant telepath. That's a bummer. being a mutant in Marvel and also having to be British. Unlike Psy, she has several comic appearances dating all the way back to December 1976. Originally, she was born to a wealthy British family. During her teenage years, as you'd expect, her mutant gene activated, giving her telepathy. Some more time after that, her parents died, as they tend to do in these. This drove Psy to become an Air Force pilot and a supermodel on the side. Like I've been saying, all very standard stuff, would happen to anybody. After receiving a psychic vision, she was adopted into the Hellfire Gala with Emma Frost. Sometime after this, her brother would actually give up the mantle of Captain Britain. So unfortunately, Betsy would pick it up, and let me just say, I know the game version is different, but the design is actually pretty cool, and I'd love to see this as a rival skin. I want to skip over a bunch of stuff here, though, because the main point I want to get to is her body swap. In 1986, Betsy was kidnapped by the Hand, the villains from the worst season of Daredevil, and the Defenders. Anybody watch that? I watched that. I watched it a few times. Her mind was swapped with Kwan. Kwan? Kwannon, who was a legit ninja, and the comatose lover of the leader of the Hand, leaving behind Betsy in a broken body. Kwan is the Psylocke most people are familiar with. Well, I say most people, but I feel like there's just not a lot of Psylocke fans out there in general. Don't try and claim you were faker. I know you're lying. Nobody remembers X-Men Apocalypse. I know you weren't fiending over her. Anyway, she'd go on to join the X-Men. She as well, believe it or not, also wanted to bang Cyclops. So we're 3 for 3 so far with women in the X-Men, like I said in my Lego video. And here's Scott. He's just around. It touches his belly button, so he's allowed to stay. This is where it gets really messy. Psylocke was attacked by Cannon, who was claiming that she was the real Betsy. So the X-Men went to Japan to consult an expert, but he had no clue what was going on with Cannon, so she just joined the X-Men. For some inexplicable, totally out of nowhere reason, this actually caused a lot of friction between Psylocke and Cannon. Luckily, Cannon killed herself. But it wasn't over there, because Cannon and Psylocke were mentally linked, giving Psylocke an identity crisis. Psylocke and Archangel would go on a mission together where they'd end up falling into a relationship with one another. Because apparently it's impossible for a man and a woman in comics to share more than 2 pages with each other without banging. Sometime after Psylocke would be nearly killed by Sabretooth. To save her life, she received a magical elixir that would amplify her powers. Luckily for her, it wasn't that simple, and the elixir actually opened up a way for a magical demon to try and take over her. After all these traumatic events, Psylocke finally decided, hey, maybe none of this is for me, and tried to leave to civilianhood with Archangel, who is blue, so good luck, buddy. Good luck they did not have, because she was then brainwashed by Shadow King, who manipulated her into shutting down telepathy in the world. She defeated him, but not without a cost of her telepathic abilities. Thankfully for me, I've run out of time and will be no longer explaining her backstory. Anyway, I like how she turned out. She looks cool. Storm! She's an interesting one. For her, she's a little bit taller than some of the other women in the game, standing at 5'8", which makes sense considering she's a goddess. Like, of course she's gonna be taller than someone like, say, Dagger, Luna, Mantis, or Invisible Woman. Well, Mantis, she was kind of a goddess. Her original creator was kind of weird. He was like really obsessed with her and really wanted her to matter and really pushed her. That's something for a different day. Even then, I used the same template, just a bit taller, like barely even noticeable. You gotta love how in the video it always looks easy and like it took no time at all to make these. But in actuality, it took me like 3 hours to make her hair. That's the problem with these videos. They look too easy. I had to make these look harder. To be honest though, I don't really tend to make mistakes on these. It really all just boils down to how time consuming it is. But when I make a mistake, that is such a pain, and I usually don't include it. I'll mention it sometimes. Because of how dark her skin tone is, it's a little difficult to see the detail in her face. The most difficult it got was that I just had to mix paint for her lipstick. Other than that, the rest is alright. I use paint for all of her makeup since it just shows up a lot better. Even though the lipstick still doesn't really show, the main piece of her body is her hair. With her body done, and mainly her hair, I can now move on. For Storm's costume, it's pretty much entirely black. Me personally, I'm not a huge fan. I like Storm's costume more when it's all white, like in X-Men 97. I even have her white suit skin equipped in the game. That is until they added the symbiote skin, which at first I didn't really care about, but has since grown on me. All the symbiote skins are pretty good, to be fair. Despite what I've said about Venom in the past, and my opinions on him, I do think it would be cool if everybody in the game had a symbiote skin. In that vein, I don't like doing black suits for Marvel Rivals characters. When it comes to the design of Rivals characters, the shade of black they typically use isn't fully black like I have. It's a really darkish gray that allows them to do a lot of the details and like black linings that they do, which makes sense obviously, but it's just annoying because I don't have that material. I haven't made Black Panther yet, but I'm gonna have to buy something that's more accurate before I start. I ended up going out and specifically buying this really dark gray that kind of looks like black to mimic the way it looks in the game. I have to alternate between several different shades of black and gray to accurately do her costume. You know what one of her suits sucks though? That new unicorn one. It just looks so dumb and the colors, they don't work for me. The design itself is also just like weird and not in like a good way. It just looks like they threw stuff together. I'd say the same about the Phoenix skin too. Like the Scarlet Witch Phoenix skin that's like purple and it's got the feathers. That skin looks dumb. Those skins just look stupid. Storm as a character in this game is one I've never really given much thought. Like, I played her to get the achievement, but other than that, I don't really think about her. I've seen her very slowly throughout my games gain more and more of a player base, which is neat. You know, I'm never against a Storm on my team. I do think she's pretty easy. I would use her to farm assists if I didn't want to get proficiency points on healers instead. I think giving her that Jeff team up was a big plus for her, when it comes to her player base at least, if it's even still in the game by the time I upload this. However, I will say it's kind of annoying when I'm playing Jeff and a Storm just tags onto my ult. Like, bro, I was gonna get a quad kill for sure, but you know, that's fine, just steal my moment. I didn't even want those kills, whatever. While making Storm and being forced to look at her in-game model for so long, I've actually started to like it a lot more. Her base game costume's really grown on me. I'd even go as far to say as this look in the game is one of her best. More so because Storm's had a pretty lackluster visual representation in media. Like the Midnight Suns game, I don't like those. Those costumes just all look bad to me. I literally don't like any of them. Or the X-Men movies. Like, she almost gets a neat costume for one singular scene at the end of the movie, but other than that, it's just whatever. I can at least appreciate that in those movies they gave her, like, her cape, because her cape is, like, the coolest part of her costume, easily. I hope she's brought back in the new Avengers movies, though, and given some sort of good costume, because this is just depressing. You know, it may not seem like it, but she took me just short of a month to make. Like, a week short of it. Don't think I was wasting time. No, I made Phoenix and Psylocke in that time. I just took a while on her because I need to go out and specifically buy the black material I ended up using for the costume. I'm really glad I did because she looks a lot better with it. I think she turned out a little worse than I had hoped for, but I ultimately still like her. With Magik, she's actually a lot easier to make than I initially thought. If I'm being honest, there's not as much to her design as I thought she had when I'd first seen her. However, that could just be because I was intimidated by her sword. To be fair, it is very large and intimidating, something I'd know nothing about. It was kind of worrying to me to look at her hair while I was making it, because I thought she looked so stupid. Luckily, once I added the strands on the sides of her head, she looked much better. With her body finished, I can paint her. I'm not gonna lie to you, I think I went way too overboard on her hair. Like, even though the game has it, I probably didn't need to add as many colors as I did. It's not that big a deal because you're not really gonna be seeing the back of her head as much. Well, at least I won't. I get started on the base of her costume. I was kind of dreading this part. It's really easy except for one part. Her leggings. It's actually why I put off making her for so long. I have very little material to use for it, and even then, I find the material undesirable to work with. Plus, I'm always just worried it'll fray. The material I use isn't even actually for that to begin with. It's actually just the netting that holds together these little, like, plastic beads that I have. I've never used the material on the channel, so I don't expect you guys to know what I'm talking about. I've used it a few times for a few characters in the past, like I think Black Canary and Harley Quinn. Two DC characters. Very on brand for a Marvel video. Nevertheless, I do like the material for how dense it is. It works really well on such small scales like this. With all that stress of the material, I end up having to rip it apart. And there! I've done it. My magnum opus in Alt Girl. Truly nothing I've ever made will be able to top this. I met a girl last year who looked kinda like this. She was blonde, very pretty, and kinda dressed similar with like short shorts and fishnets. I ended up fumbling her and she got a different boyfriend who like had tattoos and was way hotter than me. I still think about it. And what could have been. When it comes to detailing the costume, I start with the boots. This is probably the easiest part to detail given how little I actually have to do. I really like the way her armor is, and just kind of in general the theme of her, where her armor and her sword seems just like a little too big for her. Very bulky. There's really a lot of women in this game who have short shorts on their main costume. And if not their main, then you know they'll get them on an alternate costume. Not complaining, just seeing patterns. Speaking of patterns, I keep getting a lot of people like on my videos asking me for patterns. This is probably a bad place to address it in like a nearly over an hour long video. So I'll address it somewhere else too, but I'll bring it up now anyway. Between videos and shorts, I have a lot of you guys asking me for patterns for characters, which obviously I understand why you'd want that, but the thing is, a pattern simply doesn't exist. There's no pattern for any of the stuff that I do. The only thing I have a pattern for is their bodies, and even then, it's a loose pattern. I have 3 rival-specific patterns I've made. Basic woman, basic man, and tank. And tank is based off Thor. Man is based off Black Panther, which I think I need to change because I really messed up his traps. And woman is just woman. A lot of them have the same body type. Everything else you see in the video is completely free-handed, which is why, while not doing a good job at it, I try to include everything I cut in the video so you can see what it looks like and where it goes. I try to make these videos so you can follow along if you choose to, but it's kind of a loose follow, not necessarily a one-to-one. Like there's one guy I keep seeing who was making stuff. Maybe I'll like throw him in the video on screen if I remember. But he made like Daredevil and he made Deadpool and Wolverine. And I don't think he made Venom, he might have. But he like made all those and he kind of made it his own style as opposed to like doing it one-to-one with what I do. Which is kind of like the goal. Like if you can do it one-to-one with what I do, that's great. Good job. That's really cool. But like if you kind of like take your own creative liberties with it, then that's also great. I think that's also cool. I love to see that. I just love to see whatever people make off of like these videos. I haven't seen anybody try to make any Rivals characters yet though. To be fair, I wouldn't expect them to. These guys are hard. I've made 35 of them as of recording this, so I'd say I'm definitely more used to doing it now. But starting out, I know when I was making Spider-Man, that was like a week of on and off work to do. However, then I made Jeff after, and that only took me like a day, so maybe just a little longer, because I had to wait for the paint to dry. For Magik, I'm nearly finished. I just need to do the armor on her arm, and then the wings on her head. For the shoulder pad, this one looked more intimidating to me than it actually was. I think it was just due to the sheer amount of spikes on her. A lot of her armor also just looks like it's floating more above her, but that's just kind of a video game thing. So I don't really need to replicate it or anything. I cut out the first spike and sew it to the middle of the pad. This one is the largest. Then I cut out the other 3. The cut for the spike kind of reminds me of a butt plug. Not that I've ever used 3 of them at a time or something. There's also 6 mini spikes rounding it out. I do gotta say that Magik is definitely one of the easier X-Men to make. I think Wolverine is still the easiest job that I've had to do in this video. As of making and recording this though, Rogue has not come out yet, and I have a feeling she's gonna take over Wolverine's spot as easiest X-Men to make. Of course, I do plan on putting her in the middle of this video, so by the time you're seeing this part, you've already probably seen her. Unless you're using the timestamps to skip around. Which, to be honest, I can't blame you. That's kind of the point of them. With Magik finished, I gotta say I'm pretty happy with her. She turned out about as well as I was hoping. Namor! You know, I'm not gonna lie, this was almost the first X-Men that I made, but then I decided to do Wolverine and Emma, and Jean, and Psylocke, and all the other ones. But here he is now, and that's what counts. To be honest, I don't even know if he's an X-Men. I've seen conflicting things. First, I looked at the wiki and he was included, but a few months later, I went there and he wasn't. But then I pulled it up on my computer and he was, and I think my phone just wouldn't show me it. It's really annoying on phone how the format or like the layout is. It's stupid. It's dumb. So I don't know what to believe. At this point, he's on here as a charity member, and because I've just had him on the list for so long already. When I was looking it up, it said he was never even an X-Men member in the comics, which I find hard to believe because...
They'll take fucking anyone.
But to be fair to him, if I don't put him in the video, then I have no idea where to put him at all. Still trying to work out where to put Iron Fist, and Squirrel Girl, and Penny. Now this guy, of all the heroes in the game, has to be one of the most annoying ones that I have had to make. And you'll see why. But right now I'm just finishing up his hair. Of the whole thing, this is probably the worst part of him, and falls victim to the biggest issue I had with making him. The colors. The colors were super annoying to find for this guy, and some of it I just couldn't find. For the hair, I used dark green because it was the closest thing I had to the game. It's not a big deal. For his body, however, it was kind of fun. Like, sure, I have to make his abs, which I'm not sure how many times I've stated they're annoying, but I will state they're annoying in the future. I mostly just enjoy doing the marker stuff. I think it turned out pretty good. I usually enjoy coloring the body or the costume. That's one of the things about making Rivals characters that's fun to me. I always get excited when I see they have tattoos, too. With the body finished, I can start on the costume. It's actually really annoying, and you may think, oh, it's just a sleeve and some pants. How could that be hard? And for that, I say that you're stupid, and I hate you. This part is actually taking place 2 weeks after I'd initially finished the body. That's because I spent the time going to different stores, trying to find stretchy enough turquoise to use for the costume. Very annoying color, might I add. The worst part is that I need matching colored felt for the armor pieces, which is the worst part of Namor here, is that felt. Because initially, I drove out and I went to try and find, like, dye that I could use to just buy, like, white strips of felt and then dye those the color I needed and use that. Because I've done that in the past with my Arkham Asylum Poison Ivy. However, they didn't have that, and to be honest, I think I was dumb for thinking that they would, because it's such, like, a specific color that I need. Like, it needs to match the color of the pants, and if it doesn't work. I found the next best thing, which was I just bought like some paint. I bought some multi-surface Craft Smart Satan acrylic paint. Oh yeah, if you're Christian, watch out. I use Satan paint on this. Oh, it's teal. My bad. It's I know that's satin. I think that's how you pronounce it, is satin. Spelled like Satan. Actually, it's not. It's spelled with an I. I'm just an idiot. I'm looking at the bottle right now, and it's... Yeah, okay, never mind. I'm just an idiot. If you're a Christian, you're allowed to use paint. I take it back. Yeah, I went out and bought that. As I think you can tell, I'm pretty much just stalling for time by working on everything I can before I have to paint what needs to be painted. I like painting these guys, and I usually think it turns out well. However, I don't like having to use the brush because it's annoying. I've done it before on other Rivals characters that I haven't uploaded yet from other teams, and when I do it on them, it's annoying. It's annoying to do. Like, it definitely streamlines the painting process more, and it makes it way easier, especially more easy than using a pin to paint it all on, but that's usually for tiny details anyway. But the cleanup is what is annoying about it and makes it, like, take longer. The cleanup takes longer. But, like, the painting process, obviously I get more done with a brush than a pen. That doesn't need to be said. Not to mention, I end up using a lot of paint when I do it. However, that's not really a problem here because I bought this paint specifically to use for this. If I need it for anything else, though, I'll be glad I have it. As much as I love to complain about everything as if it's not entirely optional, I still do like having time lapses. I don't know about you, the viewer, but I think they're fun to watch. Especially these painting ones, which is basically all the time lapses I do now. I used to time lapse other stuff from different angles, and I do it in this video, and I know I did it in my Fantastic Four video, but while making most of these, my tripod actually just broke, so I don't bother trying to record it anymore. While I'm in the writing and editing part of this video, I did fix it. Mind you, its fixing was with a big blob of hot glue that I fear will snap off every time I use the tripod. Nevertheless, it hasn't failed me yet. though there is still time, and I'm sure at some point it will break, and I'll have to get a new one. But I will keep kicking that rock down the road. This part of the video is pretty much just turning into all time lapses. Well, I say that, but I also have to make the necklace and the sash thing that goes across his chest. And he's got little bracelets, and I have to decorate all of them with teeth. So many of these characters just wear jewelry, and I kind of hate it. I find it very often that I will forget to make certain things like earrings, or like, how do I make a ring? I can't. Some of them, like Cloak and Dagger, have like their costume come and wrap around their finger. I can't do that, but I did anyway. But considering the earrings are on the women, and all of the women have hair that mostly covers it, I think I'm fine. Unless they added like Moondragon. Then I'd just have to pray it's not complicated, or maybe she won't have earrings. Who am I kidding? It's Rivals. They hate me. Of course they'll just make it overly complicated. I mean, hell, even if they made it like those little beads that they have, that would still be annoying. I could probably use like paint to do that, but it would be on them forever. Not that I'd ever like really need to take it off, but still, it's just like, man. If I'm being honest with you and myself, I think this is probably the part of when I was painting Namor where I just started to get sloppy with it. Like, I didn't really want to have to pull out the paint again to paint the underside of his armor, so I just tried to do it all at once, but that didn't really work. But I think I got the brush deep enough inside that it doesn't really matter. Even though it was sloppy, I'm still satisfied with how it looks. Plus, I've already been making Namor for around a month at this point, and I just wanted to finish him so I could move on to making Magik, whom I hadn't started making yet at this point. I think I actually did start making her, but I only made the body. And then I was like, I have to finish Namor, and then I can work on another character. Because I think I was also working on another character, but I can't remember which one it was. Overall, I'd say Namor turned out well, and I'm pretty happy with him. That's finally it. The X-Men. This video was a lot of effort and a huge labor of love. I thought about delaying it a little more to include more X-Men I'm sure they'll add. Characters like Cyclops, Professor X, Nightcrawler, Mystique, Beast, Colossus, Shadowcat, Bishop, Forge, etc. At that point, I'll probably make a whole other video called, like, X-Men 2, or X2. Or X-Men .5, something like that. I will say, there's something that feels wrong about doing an X-Men video without Cyclops and Professor X. Knowing my luck, they'll be the Season 7 heroes. Could have waited one more season. I'm not waiting any more time. And I know it's like, oh, I made the X-Men. And some of you may have been expecting me to do other mutants like Scarlet Witch or Deadpool, but apparently Scarlet Witch is an Avenger in this game, and I just didn't feel like delaying the video anymore to make Deadpool. Plus, I don't really associate Deadpool with the X-Men, just as a character. I already waited 2 extra months because of Rogue and Gambit. No way I was waiting any longer. Anyway, I'd like to mention here at the end of the video that there are no official patterns for anything I made in this video. Everything you see here was made completely free-handed, with the exception of the body, which is cut out using a basic body template that is modified in the cutting process. As always, I'd like to thank you for watching. These videos take a lot of time and effort to put together, so I really appreciate you watching till the end. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.
Let me suck on your nipples. Let me suck on your nipples, yeah. Let me suck on your nipples. Let me suck on your nipples, yeah. Let me suck.